And just a few days to the presidential and National Assembly elections, the issue of the Naira redesign and its scarcity remains the focus of discussions across the nation. While the Central Bank of Nigeria is insisting the policy remains, some governors are already in court challenging that position. More worrisome is the directive given by the governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, that the owed 500 and 1,000 naira remains legal tender in the state. Well, the state government says it has ordered ministries and agencies in the state to collect the old notes, which is contrary to the position of the Central Bank of Nigeria. And our Rights News analyst, Dr. Amadi, is here to help us make sense of all of this confusion ahead of the election. Dr. Amadi, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Well, beyond even the directive by Nasir El-Rufai, do you know that APC governors had a meeting this evening with the national chairman of their party, and their position is clear. President Buhari respect the Supreme Court order. So, as a lawyer, your thoughts on all of this?
I think there's a confusion, really, and the narrative that is blackmailing. I don't think Buhari actually violated the Supreme Court order. Now, let's walk it back. You know, so Nigeria sometimes will follow on a group think. First, the Supreme Court says no matter should be, this matter issued interim order until 15th. Now, interim orders are not interlocutory orders. They don't last until the matter is determined. Interim order means an order that lasts to the named date. So if you say interim order and it said come tomorrow, it means that tomorrow the order should stay until tomorrow. Now, after that tomorrow, the court has a liberty to either issue interlocutory order, which is the one that awaits the determination of the motion on notice. So the Supreme Court didn't, I listened I got proceedings, they didn't necessarily say that the order continues. It's assumed that having adjourned without determining the suit, the interim order continues. So lawyers have different views about that. But secondly, very important, the order, the president's speech may have obliquely, you know, not directly, suggested contravening that order. But it's not as dramatic as the governors are making it, because most of these governors actually contradict clear Supreme Court orders. For example, the order to release Nnamdi Kanu is not yet compliant. So this sudden threat that President Buhari's refusal to comply with the order is a threat to national security that warrants unconstitutional actions by the governor of Kaduna State. It's not true. Now, the print has not said, the Attorney General, who is the named party, says will comply. The question is, how should they comply? The order, and that's what some of us said, that order probably shouldn't have been issued, because that order does not have some practical step they ought to do. It says federal government and all its agencies. So the CBN can play dead brain, do nothing, and therefore the order is not effective. Short of saying that the legal tender, those denomination continues its life. There's nothing else that the central bank is required to do. So the only thing they could do that would satisfy the other party is to say, you know what, you are free to use any of this currency until central banks, until the Supreme Court says otherwise. And my view as a lawyer is that if I was a judge, I would weigh the confidence and the merits, and I would rather say it's like determining the main issue, because ultimately what the monetary policy seeks to do is to invalidate use of those currency. Now, you can join issue whether the central bank acted legally. And again, I've looked at the writ, the motion, the summons before the court, the originating summons. There's nothing that suggests that they're challenging the power of the president to approve monetary policy. Now, there are two segments. First is the policy. The Central Banks Act puts it squarely the responsibility of the president and the CBN governor. The other is the implementation, which is why we talk about two levels of independence of the central bank monetary policy. So one is goal independence, the other is instrument independence. You set up the goal, clear, they have the power. How you implement it, implementation, is not a matter that rightly should be in the High Court, because it's not a matter as to the power to make the policy. It's a matter as to whether the policy is reasonable, rational, and fair. Considering so it seems to me that clearly, short of the central bank and the president reversing themselves fully, what the other party wants, the nature of the order they wanted is that all currencies trade. Okay, use all denomination. Now that would totally knock off the main kernel of the central bank monetary policy. They're going to go back to court, and the question for the court will be, how much deference should you give to the central bank? The idea here is very simple. The policy-making framework, the presidential power and the CBN power, you can only challenge it if you are saying it's unconstitutional. That power is clear. So the Kaduna, Kogi, and others are not challenging the policy. They say that what they're concerned is the implementation. And the question that some lawyers say, look, implementation is actually a matter for the Federal High Court. Okay. Because it doesn't relate to a contest between the power. It's not an usurpation of power by the federal government against the states. It's actually an argument around whether that power is being implemented, that policy, in a way that is fair, reasonable,
that's understandable. Okay, now, in all, what does this back and forth now have to impact on the party, especially as the elections are upon us? Doesn't it look like the party is divided, the governors and the party chairman are now on one side of the divide, the president is on the other side of the divide?
This is a dramatic turnout, and the APC, I think, are smart. They are managed very well. Now, it's difficult to run an election 8 years of an incumbent that has not done well. So what the APC has done with this crisis is to use it to place a wedge between them and the President Buhari. So to voters now, seeing APC talking against the president, seeing the candidate of the APC, protesting presidential initiative and policy, protects them from the clamor, the public outrage against the government. So what they have done with this crisis is a smart one. They have been able to see themselves as the opposition to the ruling government, whereas they should have borne the damage, the brunt of the errors of this government. So people look and say, oh, this is President Buhari. Ashwaju Baba Ahmed, it's not really with this guy. So the backlash of this policy
on the presidency and not necessary.
So what you're implying, Dr. Amadi, what you're implying now is that President Muhammadu Buhari has not done well, and so the governors, the APC governors, and the party chairman are now they are trying to throw him under the bus.
Because one is a lame dog. It doesn't give them any much benefit. They need to win this election. Immediately after, on Saturday, the president becomes super lame dog, meaning, look, he can't do much. No, he can't do much. That's what I'm saying, smartly. They are creating a narrative that says, we are fighting for the Nigerian people against a policy.
But at the end of the day, a policy of an APC administration.
But that's for
Dr. Sam Amadi. I hear you. High stakes politics is what some would actually call that there.
And we are the guys.
Yeah, we are the one with the people. But at the end of the day, one thing we know for a fact is that it will be an interesting week as the Supreme Court again will sit again this week. And President Buhari, all the way in Addis Ababa, has released a video asking for patience. So we'll wait and see how that plays out. As we look forward to the elections, Dr. Sam Amadi, a Rice News analyst, thank you for joining us tonight.